Hello, I'm John Fry, and welcome to Medics Voices, where we talk with opinion leaders from all aspects of health and medicine. Today, we're talking with David Loxterkamp, who is one of the great writers and essayists about practicing in communities over the last 40 years. He's published essays in the British Medical Journal, JAMA, the Annals of Family Medicine, BJGP, and many other journals over many years. He's also the author of two books about his work in rural Maine and his connections with the history and spirit of doctoring. David, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So, in 1981 essay called Being There, you wrote, "Practice is a splendidly colored canopy where the stories of physicians and patients interbranch, where changing roles and evolving relationships of community life provide shelter for the long run. It's mostly about being there, a presence over time, about knowing our place and holding ground." That was at the beginning of your career, and I wondered if you'd do two things. Talk about your journey from rural Iowa to rural Maine, and a little bit of reflection on that particular piece of writing early in your career and how it has felt over the years.
Well, I grew up in a town of 750 people, a town that I didn't know at the time, or maybe didn't want to believe was slowly dying as all of the small town farming communities in the upper Midwest, probably in many, many places. I see that happening also here in Maine, are dying. And then my father died. My father was a general practitioner. Um, my mother a nurse. My sister became a nurse. Um, I just from an early age knew that there was something important about medicine, especially in a small town, and being an integral part of a community. The idea of that became very important to me. I kind of got into medicine, I always say, as an arranged marriage. Um, when I was leaving for college, my mom made a comment to me that if I should, for some reason, decide not to go into medicine, she would have felt as if she let my father down. I didn't see that as manipulative in any way at the time. And I suppose, like many, many arranged marriages, this worked out for me. This worked out to be really the perfect lifelong choice. It allowed a person with awkward social skills to delve into the life of others and in a professional way become a friend to them, a witness for them, a companion to them in their struggles. I wanted to practice in Iowa. I did my family medicine training in Pennsylvania and desperately wanted to get back to Iowa, but to first spend a year in Chicago, kind of just living the city life, a city you know well. Um, and it was a wonderful experience. Great food, great culture. Um, I studied, I got a master's at the University of Chicago while I was waiting to go back to Iowa. And like many men make their significant life choices, I met my wife to be, and she was from the East. When it became clear we were going to leave in the same direction, leave Chicago in the same direction, I said I'd go anywhere rural, and she would go anywhere east. And we ended up in Belfast, Maine. Maybe one of the third best choice I made in my life. The first marrying Lindsay, the second we decided to have children, and then we ended up here. And so, and just a reflection on the reading that you provided. I guess I've spent my whole life, my whole writing life, repeating myself because I feel pretty much exactly the same way now. I'm in the right place. I'm caring for neighbors and friends. I know this community, and they importantly know me. Um, I get so much support every day when I walk into a hardware store, the post office, um, or just downtown, having a conversation with people that we're friends. And even if we are maybe in the opposite side of the political aisle, or go to different churches or whatever, that all falls into the background of years of knowing each other. So I'm still holding ground, and don't intend to leave this ground. Maine, as some people who have moved here find, it's a hard place to get an anchor sunk. People are suspicious initially, or at least in rural places, suspicious that, oh, you're going to stay for a couple of years and then leave. And they're waiting for that other shoe to drop. And finally, when they realize that you're here to stay and that you've earned your spot, boy, it doesn't feel like you would ever want to leave. You're here for good. And so my wife feels the same way, luckily. And our kids, surprisingly, after living in other parts of the world, have joined us here. Our 30-year-old son is living 6 miles away, 8 miles away, and our daughter within a half an hour drive. So we're lucky, we found our home, and it's a big one, including all the people in town and even our children. So that's where we
When,
are.
when did you realize that you were a physician and a writer, that writing was going to be a part of your life as long as medicine has been part of your life?
I think I got lucky in that early on, I got guidance from one of the great writers, a mentor to both of us, Gail Stevens, who patiently helped me work through the process of learning how to get a great idea, a wonderful feeling into words that reflect that honestly and authentically. And it took me a number of tries. He was very patient. Finally, I remember he said, "This is worth publishing. Let me help you." Um, so early on, John, I was lucky in that I had a mentor, and I was lucky that I had some early success. And once you find the magic of using words and using this as your creative outlet in life, or at least one of your creative outlets, it really it's deeply rewarding. It's instructive. It's a confessional. Um, it's a home place. It's a conversation with myself that I hope others might deem worth listening to. And that's always been the way I've approached it. That if I can be honest to myself, others might find that interesting or helpful to them. I've never pretended to be, although there were times I think I put that mantle on myself. I've never pretended to be or tried to be the voice of the rural family physician, but just one guy, just one guy living a pretty good life with ups and downs, confronting the injustices I see in the world and with my patients, and trying to reflect that in words, and trying to make the words as truthful and as beautiful and as compact as I can. Um, as I said, I've been lucky, and I've had great mentors and support all along the way.
There was this line from Williams Carlos Williams where they asked him about how could he practice medicine and write poetry at the same time. And his response was, one rests a man when the other exhausts him. And I think of you all the time when I think of that, because you're doing simultaneously difficult work in both of those areas.
Right. He has always been a great inspiration to me as well. And I remember him maybe in his autobiography reflecting on how he worked in writing into his busy life, much busier than mine, I suspect. And I think he said something about he would even write down a few lines at a stop sign. If he can do that, I can spend, I can quote unquote waste an hour or 2 hours in front of a computer trying to capture a feeling or a thought or a reaction to a situation. Much of my writing has always been that. That is, it's the life of a family doctor, isn't it? We react to whoever walks in the door and the problems that they bring to us.
Well, over the years, you've had a pretty consistent interest in a couple of people. One was or is Ernest Sirianni, who was a rural family doctor in Kremlin, Colorado, that was the subject of this remarkable photojournalism essay that W. Eugene Smith did in 1948. And as a person, the photos from that essay are some of the most compelling there are in medicine. And the other is John Berger and Jean Moore and their work with The Fortunate Man. So I wondered if you could speak about each of those, perhaps, especially since you're the subject or were the subject of I'm not sure how many years after the original 1948 photo essay that the photo essay in Life featured you as a small town.
Actually, 50 years.
50 years.
Yeah.
So if you could just talk about not only Sirianni and how you became interested in him, but the episode where you ended up being the subject of a similar kind of essay.
Well, first, Ernest Sirianni. Yes, you're right. The photographs were beautiful. And I don't know who first told me about W. Eugene Smith and his photo essays. I really don't. But I was handed a 1948 Life magazine and was captivated. And, he was, at least pictorially, everything I wanted to be. I wanted to be that country doctor. And I'm an idealist. I picture myself in situations way beyond what I can probably realistically handle, I think. And he was there as a solo practitioner. I knew I couldn't be that, but anyway, it was it was him and those photographs certainly that propelled me in dark moments to become a better family doctor, to stay in this small town and make the best of my life. Well, a long story. My daughter and I took a trip to New York City to the Time Life building, and we were invited to meet one of the editors who had written a book about Maine. I had written him a fan letter. He said, anytime you're in New York City, stop in. I'd love to meet you. So we did. And one of my questions to him, this was a year before, this was 49 years after the original essay, was, what are you going to do to highlight, to commemorate this 50th anniversary coming up? I know that we no longer have W. Eugene Smith around to do another essay, but what are you going to do? It was really such a beautiful essay. It should be memorialized. And he looked at me and he said, well, isn't Dr. Sirianni dead? And I said, well, yes, he is, but there are other doctors out there. Anyway, that was the last I heard of it until I got a phone call from the managing editor of Life magazine, who said, would you be interested in being the subject? She had just read my book, A Measure of My Days, that had just come out in 1947. I'm sorry, 1997. And she said, if all works out, we would send a photographer and a journalist to spend 3 weeks with you. They'll be in your home, they'll be in your face, they'll be in your office, they'll be around town with you. It'll be a great imposition, but are you interested? And so I was to be connected to W. Gene Smith, to Ernest Sirianni in that way was just an honor for me. Um, what was really important too, and this relates also to John Berger's story of John Eskel in A Fortunate Man years later, I learned who these people were. And that was really important to me to go out and meet, to converse with the sons of Dr. Siriani, to actually travel to Kremlin, Colorado, where he lived and that beautiful photo essay was filmed uh, with one of my mentors. So Gail Stevens accompanied me to Kremlin to interview his nurse and other people in town. I, I'll just say this, and this kind of relates also to John Berger's story of A Fortunate Man. In my life, with my children, with my friends, with the patients who come in to see me, I know them in such a thin veneer. Uh, I don't know really who they are. I'm struggling to find out who they are. And the more you peel back the pages, you get a better picture of who they are. I learned who Ernest Siriani was, and I learned how his life ended as in a broken marriage with one son liking him, the other not, with um, people in town um, feeling grateful to him for all he had done, but he couldn't accept the younger doctors who were coming into town with their newer medicine. It's a feeling I have right now as we're seeing family medicine change so much. So I wanted to get to know who the real Ernest Siriani was. And so I did find that out and wrote a little bit about it in my second book. And the same way with John Berger's A Fortunate Man, what a vision to be in that little town of St. Breville's, taking care of the foresters and written about so beautifully. Um, this is John Berger told me in person when I visited him in outside of Paris a number of years later than the Life magazine piece, that this was his favorite essay, his favorite book. And he told me a little bit about what he knew about John Berger. Turned out he also idealized John Eskel. And even though he knew the full story, kind of put it together in his mind in a just a positive way. No serious, to my way of thinking, no serious reflection. I don't know if John Berger ever read my piece in the new book, What Matters in Medicine, where again I reflect on John Eskel and John Berger. But I felt satisfied that I had gotten to know a little bit better who he was and how important that is to keep looking deeper as I try to do in my own life, try to look deeper. Um, I don't know if this has been true in your practice, John. I expect every generalist, every family physician discovers that it's through our care with patients that we learn a lot about ourselves and how we react to them, how we learn about them, how we let them into our lives, how we care about them and care for them. And it's so, I suppose this is a wonderful thing that William Carlos Williams also learned. When he talked about one's men, for one, it's your bread, and the other, it's where what exhausts you. But they're intertwined, and one can't do one without the other. And I think that's always been true for me. Medicine has taught me look deeper, listen more carefully, spend more time, don't jump to conclusions, don't judge. And it's helped me in my own judgment of myself. Give myself a break. Take some time. Let this cool off. I've not learned it as fast as I have with patients. It's harder to do with that. But anyway, these were really two monumental people in my life, both the real people and those who wrote and photographed them. Yeah, big inspirations for me. I think too, John, if I can be honest, people like them, people like William Carlos Williams and and Gail Stevens are more important to me because I lost my father at an early age. My dad died when I was 13. And that loss of not knowing how to become a man, how to be a man, how to be a father to my own children and a husband to my wife, not really feeling confident that I could. I've needed people like you, people, other colleagues in my life, my partner, my professional partner, Tim Hughes, have always been so important to me. I've never quite felt like I had two legs to stand on. I was standing with one and a crutch. Um, so it's taken a long time now, for the last 10 years since Dr. Hughes left the practice, I am on my own. Um, and it feels comfortable for me. My wife is a big support. My kids are a big support. Anyway, um, I'm still learning how to find out more deeply who it is I love and care for.
Well, that's really wonderful. I think that you are continuing, even though you took a break from your practice, to
Mhm.
go back and be with people and patients and part time and help out. To me, makes me understand that that work is essential to learning about yourself, but it's also essential for all of us who are clinicians to go in there and to listen and to understand and reflect. And so, in the sense that you're now in another stage of your life, which has to do with a little more control, a little more opportunity to do other things, but staying engaged with and helping the practice in the community that you've lived in is really remarkable. So you still offer us an opportunity to think about our own lives as we age. So I really appreciate that.
Well, I feel lucky. I feel lucky that I found a vocation. I found my home. Um, and I honestly, this is in the form of an apology to all the patients I took care of for the previous 35 years. I feel like I'm practicing the best medicine of my life.
Right.
Maybe not, I'm not as sharp, I'm not as quick. Um, I probably don't read as much as I used to, but I do spend more time. And I have time to look up things after I leave the patient. I think every general practitioner must feel at a certain point, boy, they're on a treadmill and it keeps going faster and faster, and you have more and more patients to worry about. And I got to the point at the end of my official career where it was hard for me. Now my patients were aging with me. It was hard for me really to face their death, their struggle, their final struggle. I couldn't, there were so many of them. I couldn't do it all. So I used the opportunity to teach for 3 years as a way of easing out of that, what I felt was a burden to me. Coming back, for some reason, that slate has been kind of wiped clean. I see many of my older patients struggling, dying, ending their life. I can look at it differently now. I don't know quite why that is, but I don't feel responsible for saving them. I suppose it has something to do with no longer feeling responsible for saving family medicine or saving the world or such other idealistic whims I had. I feel only responsible for being there with them. Maybe getting back to that original statement I made many years ago. If we only listen to ourselves rather than just prophesize and spout off to others, I might have had an easier life. But I do feel like I'm giving them the time that they need now and giving myself that time. Um, I'm not happy personally with the way family medicine has changed, but I suppose it's like all older generations. seeing the younger generations coming up doing things differently, we can't adjust, or we can't adjust easily. We can't adjust freely. And we have to just hand the baton and hope that in their goodness, in their desire to do good and to do good for others, they will find a way to make it right. A way that I can't imagine, I can't visualize, I can't participate in. They will make it right. And I see that in the people around me who are on the treadmill that I was on, and I feel sorry for them. I don't know the other way out. Um, I do have the chance to talk to colleagues like yourself, like Dr. Hughes and others, about the changes going on in family medicine, the loss of continuity, um, the loss of comprehensiveness, the loss of ownership, not just financial ownership, but investment in a emotional investment in a practice. The desire to move on after a couple of years and be in this revolving door of not locking oneself, not holding ground in a community, but moving on. That troubles me, but it's happening. It's the reality. And I can either, grumble about it, and I do, uh, or I can work with those who I still can work with. My preference is to do what I can and to let the world decide on how it's going to handle all the rest. And what I can do is give more time to people who are at the end of their life, or who at the beginning of their life and struggling with addiction, struggling with homelessness, struggling with mental illness, struggling with marriage and commitment. I can help them by giving them the time that they need. I do that at the expense of having to spend a lot of time documenting outside the office, something I thought I would never do. But one does what one has to do. And so I don't have a lot of time left, but I have some time and I have time to give. So um, this has allowed me to be the doctor I wanted to be all along. Um, and I'm still here in a community that has recognized me for 41 years as their doctor, one of their doctors. So I'm very grateful for that.
Well, this has been wonderful. I really appreciate the time you spent with us, and all I can say is there are a lot of people in this world who have used what you've written as a way to be a kind of safety vest that you can put on when you feel like you're drowning. It's the kind of thing where I certainly think people have reached for what you've written and to help them through similar kinds of things. And I give what you write to younger doctors all the time. So I think there's hope that in there some others will see its value and be grateful. So thanks, David. Thank you so much.